Hello, I'm Peter Phelps,
And I'm Nick Lloyd.
and we are two psychotherapists. I'm from London in the UK, and whereabouts are you from, Nick?
Yeah, so I work in Canada, in Calgary and in Edmonton as well. But I also work for London, UK.
Okay, so you're quite international. I should add I'm international too. I'm on the internet. I've got a client currently in Bangladesh, and also I've seen clients as far afield as Melbourne in Canada. So no, Melbourne in Australia even. Uh, which is probably the longest distance therapy session on record, I should imagine. Um, First of all, I think we should probably explain what the term psychotherapy actually means. So, Nick, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so both you and I come from the same but slightly different angles, don't we?
Hmm.
So, yeah, my background is in psychology primarily. So I look at both the root cause as the natural human beings that we are, and the unregulated emotional responses to the pressures of the world, basically,
Yeah, yeah.
in easy
So,
terms.
so we're dealing with uh, crises in people's lives, and we're dealing with their emotions. And when your emotions are in harmony, that's when everything is good. That's when things are going okay. But when you've got internal conflict going on, where you perhaps have got anger, frustration, all kinds of emotions flying around with your situation or in a relationship, that's where we come in as therapists to help you to gain some clarity and to help you to find a way forward. That to me is what therapy should be about. It should be proactive, and not just chit chat, not just a talking shop, but looking to actively find a way forward to resolve those issues and to resolve people's emotional conflicts. Anything you want to add to that, Nick?
Yeah, so it is, Pete, as you say, it's about the internal feelings being externalized in different ways,
Hmm.
whether that's overthinking, addiction, insomnia, overeating, and where I work with anxiety and abandonment, I see a lot of sabotage as well. People are terrified of their feelings. They don't want to sit with them, and we're looking to find some harmony. But ultimately, that means that people have to talk and communicate about their feelings. But if they feel they cannot do that with people around them, then or within themselves, because they keep pushing their emotions down or using ways to distract those emotions. They will, like you say, drink, take drugs, smoke, go from one partner to another. Uh, then those unresolved issues need to be dealt with.
Mm. Yeah, and if people don't, then it just leads to, well, it leads to a lot of unhappiness, and it leads to a lot of chaos in people's lives. I deal in my practice with a lot of anxiety issues, a lot of stress issues, relationship issues. I also focus quite a lot on addictions, and really, that's all of these emotional issues playing out in people's lives in different ways. Uh, you've got some interesting areas that you deal with in your practice, haven't you, Nick?
Yeah. So I deal with dysphoria as well. That's
Hmm.
largely in the LGBT community. But what I find is parents of LGBT kids or teens, or perhaps other family members, are phoning up and saying, I don't understand, I need some support with this, because they have feelings too about it. The response when somebody comes out as having a different sexuality. It depends on really where you live, your upbringing. And when you feel that somebody is not going to be happy about who you are, whether you're transitioning, whether you're gay or bisexual, a lot of people will push those feelings down. Some people will go to great lengths to completely ignore how they feel.
Yes.
They'll get themselves somebody that they otherwise wouldn't be with. They
Mm-hmm.
will find outlets in addiction. They will find anything to stop those feelings from happening. But again, those play out in different ways. They end up overthinking. They end up with really severe anxiety. And because they don't want to, and I see this with cultural issues as well, they don't want to upset anybody else in their lives or in their family, or they don't want to be labeled a certain way. And that leads to internal conflict and then external anger and hurt and arguments. But yeah, that's what happens when you don't resolve what's going on internally.
Yeah,
Because
and
yeah,
and also externally as well. You mentioned there about the people worrying about what families or friends are going to think. And one of the things that I find in my practice is that people get so hung up on what other people think or what they think other people are going to think.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as you say, uh, what other people think about you, A, isn't really your business as much as you think it is.
Hmm.
But B, you cannot control what other people think and feel. So, and it's very hard for people to understand that, right? What they think
Yeah,
is that I just want other people to like me. I just want other people to accept me.
yeah,
If they don't accept you, it you know, for some people, it really, really matters. Their whole
yeah.
self-worth uh, is about being accepted by people around them. And if we can help them to get past that, they can lead happier lives rather
Yeah.
than feeling like they have to ignore it and going home and saying, I don't want to get into this situation because I'm going to end up crying. I'm going to end up feeling things I don't want to feel.
Mm.
Well, you know, as we say, Pete, where your comfort is where your demons sit. And
Yeah.
you need to move away from that and allow yourself to grow as a human being. And you can't do that by finding ways to avoid your emotions or avoid communicating.
No, you're absolutely right. And first and foremost, um, before you can be loved or accepted by anybody else, you have to love and like yourself.
Yeah.
And that's one of the primary things that we're dealing with, isn't it? Um, Now, there are a couple of words that you mentioned there that people might not necessarily be familiar with. The first one is dysphoria. So, can you tell me more about what that means?
Yeah. That's a word going around the internet a lot at the
Hmm.
moment. Um, yeah, it's a alignment issue between what sex you were born and what sex you would say you are.
Right. So, you might be born uh, physically female, but on the inside feel like a male, or vice versa, and that's what causes the conflict
Yeah.
in your self identity. Yeah.
So, yeah, some people think that it's about feelings that you can control. Uh, Feelings to some degree are you have to regulate, but in trying to control the natural way in which you feel is when we see the the balance tipped and people go downhill from there.
Yeah.
You cannot, make people not they maybe won't go ahead with transitioning, but if they are trans, you can't stop that any more than you can stop somebody being gay or bisexual just by offering them partners of the other sex. uh, and a lot of people take issue with that.
Mm.
And it directly affects the people that feel the way they do. And I can understand, because parents are saying, I'm terrified. And what I always say is, I don't advocate for everyone to come phone me up and say, well, you're going to tell me my kid should have surgery. No, I'm not. What I am interested in doing is making sure that somebody takes the right path, the correct path. And in therapy, you cannot have a bias. You know,
No.
you can't. I couldn't say to parents, well, because I'm a trans therapist, therefore I'm on the side of all.
Transitioning.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
the truth is that not everybody needs to transition. Not everybody can transition, perhaps for medical reasons. And but is it a mental health issue? Only in the way that those issues that other people bring to the table are then forced upon somebody who is transitioning or is investigating maybe just their gender,
Yeah.
maybe in what they want to wear and how they want to act, and they're being pressured by society, by their parents, by their friends,
Yeah.
and that really leads to unregulated feelings, which is what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think we should also explain the term transitioning, um, meaning meaning transitioning from um, biological male to female or vice versa. Yeah,
Yeah.
via a process of um, hormone treatment and probably surgery as well is normally involved in the transitioning process. Is that correct?
It is and it isn't. For some people, medically, they cannot transition.
Really?
Um, yes, and for some people, they don't feel that they need to physically transition.
Right.
But there are people that will go ahead with uh, going for surgery, but that's not until you're an adult,
Yeah.
unless, of course, you pay privately. But the idea that it's something that you can just do a click of your fingers is incorrect. It takes a long time. The waiting lists are long, and because the waiting lists are long, there's lots of people with nowhere to go, and because if they start talking about it openly, they're shut down, and that's the worst
Yeah.
thing you can do with unregulated emotion is shut people down and say your feelings don't matter. Well, they
Yeah.
do.
And don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. You know, it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's
because
a
it makes me
taboo.
feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I should just clarify that although this is one of your specialist areas, you're not exclusively like a trans therapist by
No.
any stretch of the imagination. That like me, you will deal with anything of a psychological or emotional origin within certain parameters. For example, severe psychosis that needs medical treatment.
Psychiatric treatment. Yeah.
That needs to be medicated. But for most people with their emotional or psychological problems, uh, that's what I deal with. That's what you deal with. That's what therapists deal with, especially psychotherapists as a whole. And we would encourage people, encourage everyone to uh, go and see a therapist, deal with your emotional and psychological stuff, even if you don't think that you've got any. Because I know that when I started my own journey, um, back in, well, it was around 2000. It was about 20 years ago. That I thought I was fine. I thought that I was sorted. Didn't really have any problems. And then I started my training as a psychotherapist, and my eyes were opened. Believe me, I had more stuff going on than I ever even realised. Um, so, and I see this a lot in clients as well. I see big, strong guys, big macho guys who have reached the end of their tether, the end of their rope, in their situation, and they've tried to cope with their own situations, with their own relationships and their own emotions, and they've turned to substances, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, or maybe gambling or something like that. in order to escape the chaos of their lives, and their way of dealing with it only creates more chaos, and they end up in crisis, and they end up coming to see me, or they end up coming to see you.
Yeah, quite. Like you say, it becomes really difficult for people. And our goal, I guess, is to say it doesn't matter whether you're a big macho guy, whether you feel that there are no issues in your life. Once you start talking about it, as we find when we start training, and we spend years in training before we're really allowed to speak to people, that if you come and talk to us, we go on a journey with you, as opposed to leave you in the dark or put you in a situation that you're uncomfortable with, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to say, we're not going to push you anywhere you don't want to go.
Yeah.
But inevitably, you may well end up taking yourself there. And you're
Yeah.
right. A lot of people say, there's nothing wrong with me. It's that person over there. It's them. It's to do with them. And I wouldn't feel this way if. And we've all been through some horrific things, or things that don't seem horrific to other people, but really matter to us.
Yeah.
But once we start externally transferring that information, those emotions and feelings, then we are not at an optimal level, and we go downhill from there.
Yeah.
Then it leads to, as you say, either addiction, for me, abandonment issues,
Yeah.
severe anxiety, overthinking, insomnia, and various things like that. And what we're looking for is to say to people, we're here to help you on your journey to a realization about some things that perhaps you didn't know were going on or at play.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in the current circumstances in the world, more so than ever, because these are unprecedented times. With the COVID pandemic, the world has been thrown into chaos, and everything that we knew has been turned on its head, and everybody has been by it. Nobody is completely immune or isolated from it, and everybody's circumstances and how they've been affected by it are quite unique. But it's caused a hell of a lot of stress for people in different ways, whether it's affected people financially or with their jobs. Perhaps they've been put on furlough. Perhaps the business that they worked for has collapsed completely, or their own business may have collapsed completely. They may have been stuck indoors with a partner or with family that they managed to get along with okay up until the beginning of this year, but then being forced together 24/7 has started to show cracks in their relationships, or they may be completely isolated. If they perhaps live by themselves, and their main social outlet is via work, and they're used to going to work and they're used to socializing at work, and then suddenly you're in lockdown, and instead of going out to work, you're living at home, in your little flat or apartment, and you're working remotely. You're working via your laptop, and effectively you're under house arrest. It's causing so much stress, it's causing so much grief and unhappiness. I'm sure you've seen that, Nick, with some of the people that you work with.
Oh yeah. I'm getting messages. Many are about suicide, especially with men.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people get into relationships just because the life that people are leading at the moment is not as exciting as it was before. They're getting into a relationship to give themselves something exciting to do, or some company from being on their own.
Yeah.
Or because they have unresolved past issues and they don't actually want to be there. And what I foresee happening is that when this pandemic is over, we're going to see as we are now, and I know you are, Pete, an escalation of breakup of a number of relationships. Some
Yeah,
people are doing really well. They're enjoying their time. They don't get together, you know, and now they're able to be together. But then you've got people as well who are very lonely. They've
yeah,
been alone a long time. And as you say, with some people, they've been furloughed or they're getting a CERB check and it's not enough to live on. And they're at a crisis point where they cannot afford to talk to anybody. They can't afford the rates that therapists charge. The
yeah,
mental health crisis is here. It's underfunded, and and what do? So I guess we've decided to get together to look at some of these issues and to ask people what do you want to ask us? What do you want to say? What is it that's bothering you? I'm noticing, like you say, a lot of relationships as well really are either taking a tumble and escalating to the end of the relationship,
yeah,
or people are being sat at home now facing the feelings that they didn't have to face before because they were able to find outlets or other ways of dealing with it, and
yeah,
they don't have those available to them right now.
yeah, yeah. So so we're seeing an increase in relationship breakups. I've seen that amongst my own clients that has happened during the breakdown. An increase in the divorce statistics actually. In the first lockdown, there was a 40% increase in the UK in applications for divorce.
Yeah.
There's also increase in addiction and related problems as well. So yeah, so this is a big problem. So we're coming to the quarantine network. We're going to be doing a regular series on here, and we are looking for your input. We're looking for your ideas about what me and Nick should be talking about, should be discussing. So you can either direct message us via the details that are going to come up at the end of this video, or you can leave comments down below, and we'll be looking at those, and we'll be looking at some of the subjects that you suggest and that you talk about over the coming weeks. Is there anything you want to add to that, Nick?
Yeah, I think you've said it quite eloquently, Pete. It's what we want to do is give people an outlet where they can perhaps hear about the subjects they want to talk about via media, because most people are on their phones or a laptop at the moment. And instead of feeling that they have to find a lot of money for therapy, maybe we can provide a few answers through the network. But as I say in my work, the child you break is the adult you make. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those problems are going on. Family problems, issues with kids at home all day, every day.
Yeah,
Domestic violence increasing. And a lot of people, certainly, for LGBT, I'm seeing, are stuck at home and going, I've managed to avoid my feelings for so long, and now I can't.
yeah,
And they're at crisis point. They're at
yeah.
crisis point with it. So yeah, what we want you to do is just drop some comments below. Let us know what it is you want to talk about, and you can contact us via DM, and we can try and get back to some of you. But ultimately, we will put these subjects up maybe once or twice a week on the network.
Super. Okay, well, you take care, Nick. I will speak to you again very, very soon.
You will do, Pete. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.